Welcome to Dat-Mocracy Tho, a political comedy show about Colorado, hosted by a transplant that doesn't even know how to pronounce the state. Oh my goodness. Oh my God, we got a real show on our hands. It's not just a podcast tonight. That's great. I'm Daniel Reskin. It's great to be here with you tonight. And we are shining from our brand new home at Denver Open Media Studios. Give it up for this fantastic, beautiful play studio audience. And before we get started, as I am contractually obligated to do, I'd like to just have a quick shout out to our producer. He is contributing the bulk of our financial support here tonight, and I can't not do this. So everybody, give a nice warm welcome for our producer, Tad Pizzazz.
That's right, Daniel. You don't have to understate it. You know you're excited about me being here. Look at this guy. Look at this mug. You're telling me you're not excited to be part of Dat-Mocracy Tho at Denver Open Media? I just want to hold you for a minute.
You're so holy.
Oh, God. What a beautiful boy. Okay,
Please,
Daniel, thank you so much.
Have your zen.
It's probably my favorite Jumanji, Daniel Reskin. Anyway.
Never gets old.
Well, it's a lot of fun. I've learned my ways. For those of you who don't know me, this show happens every month. My name is Tad Pizzazz. Formerly Trent Gunk, that person has died. That person has ceased to exist, okay? I'm the type of guy who's seen Kings of Leon 12 times. Does that make sense? I live in Highlands Ranch in an 8,000 square foot home, okay? I drive a yellow Hummer. I spend a lot of time at the View House. Do the math. I have a 6-car garage with 2 fridges, one for Costco, one for Sam's Club. Does that make sense? I'm just trying to give you a reference. Is that okay? And it's very nice. I'm very excited to be here. I told Daniel we used to be in a train hopper bookstore. Now we're on the big screen. 3 shows in. That's what Tad Pizzazz's $25,000 check does. Gets us into the big dance, doesn't it, Daniel?
I'm ready to dance.
Just say yes. Anyway, guys, it is an exciting time. I, just like the previous episodes about gun control and homelessness, we're talking cannabis today. I have had a change of heart. It all started at the cul-de-sac potluck in Highlands Ranch. There was a young man named Travis who I used to pity back from CU on vacation. He is a white boy with dreadlocks. I used to think to myself, what a waste he is. What a waste, this boy. And then I had accidentally ate a full plate of his brownies during a depression situation during a potluck. I just walked off with a plate of brownies and I just had my way with it, and I realized I started to feel happy. I started to feel real good, okay? And it was at the hands of Travis's brownies. So I thought to myself, again, I've been duped. I didn't know. And Daniel, I gotta tell you, I am pumped about cannabis. I am into it now.
You used to hate cannabis. That's awesome.
know, but now I'm into it. It's a fun thing. But here's the situation. I've gone full ganjapreneur. I'm in the thick of it. Okay? I have a series of products. One of them, I think you'll love this, Daniel. It's a THC treat. Wait for it. You can enjoy, and your dog.
So, okay, it's a dog treat that people can eat?
That's correct. Yahtzee, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
That's food.
Daniel, I don't have time for your semantic arguments. That's right, Virginia Slim Spliffs, all day, baby. I have become ganja woke.
Papa, no!
Wait, who's this?
Who's this? You mean to tell me you don't recognize the voice of your own estranged son, Trent Gunk Villalobos?
Get up here, let me see you. Oh, let me grab this. Oh, it is you! My boy! My boy is back!
Oh, my dad!
How long has it been?
Too long.
It's very confusing, Daniel. When Brent Gunk Villalobos was born, they didn't allow forceps anymore, so I became the forceps. And I pulled my boy out, Daniel.
I see.
I pulled him out. Look at my son! Anyway, it's been such a long time, son. It's very confusing for me since I've been alive for 200 years. Haters. This is my son's son! Goddamn, son! I can't believe it! Where have you been? When I left, It was hard for me. What have you been up to?
I've been trying to be a good Republican. I know you said that ever since World War II. You've been voting red all the way through.
Yes,
He was not in World War II.
Daniel, please. I did shoot at the Boston Massacre. We're not going to talk about that.
You're an immortal vampire. Continue.
Anyway, the point is this. You're back. I'm back. Hi, son. I love you.
I'm back and I'm confused.
I know, son.
I'm confused. I've been trying to do what you said ever since you left. Be a good Republican. I've written Ronald Reagan in for every
Oh my God.
election that I've been
Here's
able
the
to
deal.
vote in.
I want to encourage that, okay? And let me be your father. Let me push you over the edge, okay?
Okay.
Are you ready?
I feel it. I want to change. I want to be just like you.
All right, Daniel, if you could give us like 30 to 60 seconds, we're gonna do a brief. We're gonna go full pizzazz.
I have no choice.
I think he's ready for full pizzazz. Just cut away. Nothing to see here.
This is a touching family reunion, everybody. Give it up for the Gunk family as he transitions into his full pizzazz attitude action. Oh God! What is that spray?
Daniel, I'm glad you asked.
It's magic. I've changed. Oh my goodness. I don't know. It was just black and now I'm different.
That's Tad Pizzazz's THC costume hairspray. It is now raging through your bloodstream, through your hair follicles. This is the new you, son.
Oh.
This is it.
Oh, I feel it. I can feel
Look
it.
at my boy! Full pizzazz! Full pizzazz! Ah! Thank you, Daniel, for letting us be on the show. I think it's going to be a hell of an episode.
It already has been. Give it up for the Pizzazz family.
By the Hummer, got a full case. Full case.
Woo! Well, that's our show, everyone. Good to be here, and thanks so much for coming out. And now we can edit that part out and start over again. All right. So let's get in and talk about the haps at the caps. What's going on at our Colorado State Capitol? First and foremost, the year's legislative session is over. So if you wanted to introduce any bills for next year, start bribing now. Start lobbying now. It's like half a year break. They get to play golf for a while before they're back. So what new bills became law? Well, a major bill passed allocating $645 million for transportation. So stressed drivers should feel some relief from the congested roads after a few years of inconvenient, mind-numbing construction. And the new roads will be ready to be congested by Californians as soon as our rush hour can hang with theirs. So be on the lookout for that. A bill failed that would imprison teachers for up to 6 months for striking. It did fail though, but something tells me if it did pass, we would have a lot more support for arming teachers. Intersection there, I think. Big news for our beer heads. You can now buy full-strength beer at grocery stores, everybody. Finally, broccoli and beer, like we always wanted. This brings us one step closer to Denver's true secret goal, turning all buildings into either a brewery or a dispensary. We're gonna get there. We're getting there, 100% soon. Robot cameras, one of you needs to show me the words. You have both got nice crowd shots right now. However, I am now ready. Oh, thank you. Robot overlord. Thank you, Robot. The AI takeover is a little early. Thought I'd get through the monologue before. Finishing the beer joke, everyone. Remember the beer joke? That was a joke we were telling. Remember that? So you can now find the new, stronger beer at participating supermarkets, including King Brewers, Natural Grocers, and of course, Whole Foods Ball. But tonight, our main focus is cannabis, unless we get distracted by cats. It can seem like a light subject, but there are countless issues tied to marijuana. First and foremost, the ubiquitous term marijuana. Apparently not cool anymore. It has been on woke alert because of its history as a tool to discriminate against Mexicans. I'm going to do my best tonight, but know that if I do happen to drop any M-bombs, it's the gringo spelling with an H, okay? It was the pre-propagandized spelling. We're going to put a note for that. We are coming to you from Denver, Colorado, the current holder of the Amsterdam Belt for being the weed capital of the world. Again, until LA creates a Cannabis Kingdom amusement park. But legal weed seems oddly normal here. We can forget that for most Americans, being caught with pot is a life-changing catastrophe. For us, it's the next item after wallet, phone, keys. Pot, okay. I thought the weed here was so high quality that I never got paranoid. But it turns out it was the high quality laws. So that's what was in it. Back in my hometown of Miami, Florida, the average price for an eighth of weed is $50 and a paranoid car ride home. Pretty much thinking, my life is over. What's my prison nickname gonna be? That kind of stuff. It's rolled into the cost. Here in Denver, an eighth of weed costs $25 and a paranoid ride home thinking, I could have got this cheaper, right? I think it says $20 over there. There's a guy flipping a sign that says 15. It's crazy. I remember seeing my first weed coupons. I cut out a BOGO for some OG. That's a bagoog, just for the record. Called up my mom. I was like telling her the good news. She was so proud / ashamed of me. It was really nice. Marijuana intersects with a lot of laws. I learned that because I have a medical marijuana card, I cannot own a concealed firearm. That's so messed up. They're worried about stoners shooting people, which is insane because when I get high, the only thing I'm shooting is the world's longest game of pool. They're not going in. I just forgot they go in the holes and I hit them back into a triangle shape. So tonight we will be talking pot and not just the normal questions like, what's it smell like, or may I? We'll explore how being on the forefront of legalization has affected daily life, minority startups, incarceration, and where the $10,000 I paid in taxes is going. We got a great show for you tonight, everybody. Later, we got a panel of cannabis industry experts. We have comedian Zac Maas. But first, she is a consultant with Sovine Consulting, lobbying for cannabis industry at the Capitol. Everybody, please welcome Cindy Sovine. Thank you for being here with us. Hey, look at you. Look how official you look. Very classy. So, Sovine Consulting, first of all,
Yes.
give us a heads up on what that is, what you do. Was saying lobbying, was that a dirty word?
Lobbying, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I didn't mean to disparage you by accident.
You know, it's us and attorneys, we rate about the lowest of the barrel, so you know,
Okay.
it works out pretty well.
Fighting for that next
Yeah.
to bottom rung.
Exactly. Cindy Sovine. I've been a lobbyist in state, local, and federal politics for about 20 years now, working primarily up until about 3 years ago in the biopharmaceutical and the hospital industry until making a shift into cannabis.
So you're doing non-cannabis medical stuff.
Correct. Yeah.
And then what was that change where you're like, let's get this one in there too?
Yeah, it was my dad's journey with lymphatic cancer, actually, and
Really?
watching what this plant that you put a seed in the ground and water it and what happens, what it does for someone who's ill, and comparing that with what I'd been working to protect in a status quo for many years on a system that didn't seem to be helping people in some of those same conditions. So it was a very interesting intersection in my career.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's quite a change. Was there any worry that you had about going into this federally illegal?
Wow,
Territory?
that's an interesting question. I actually, after my dad's experience, ended up letting go of most of the medical clients that I had and jumped into cannabis pro bono for the patient community just after seeing the results. And it's interesting that you said that because one of the clients that I ultimately intersected with was Vicente Cederberg, and they have a great attorney. His name is Charlie, and he always says to his clients, "Now we only break one federal law at a time here, people." So it's funny.
Nice.
Yeah.
So how is this still a Schedule I drug?
I think actually the biggest issue is that cannabis disrupts the status quo for many, whether it's the pharmaceutical industry, the hospital industry, the liquor industry. It really doesn't matter. It's cutting into the market share of all of these very established industries. And so you're seeing politics reflect that from the lobbyists and these billion-dollar industries and the forces that they represent now. It is a new war on drugs in some ways. It is now a war for medical freedom and the choice to treat yourself with whatever substance you choose to be fit.
Whatever substance?
Yeah, that seems
Thought
to
we
be
were
the
just talking
direction.
pot.
Well, that's what we're talking about right now.
Not medical meth or anything.
Well, yeah, correct.
Okay. Then working at the Capitol, what kind of bills were you working with this year?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a number of great things that have been done this year. One of the biggest from the marijuana industry standpoint was a bill to allow publicly traded companies to begin to invest in the marijuana industry. When legalization occurred, this was something that was not brought to the forefront. It was really kept local. And I think now we're seeing, as legalization happens nationwide, a need to allow more capital investment into the industry in order to allow it to evolve into what it really can become. And so we saw
like the
that
stock
legislation.
market.
Correct. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Would it have its own market, like the THC or something? It's like the NASDAQ.
I wonder if that's been taken yet. Somebody should get on that. Yeah.
Quick.
Yeah.
Dogecoin people.
Yeah.
Get on it.
Exactly. There's been a number of other pieces of legislation that have gone on to the governor. One will add autism to the list of medical conditions for which people can access medical marijuana. And that one's extremely exciting. We're really happy that one's come to the table.
We have a pretty tight list here, from what I understand.
We have a very tight list. In fact, the voters passed medical marijuana in 2000, and we gave the state the authority to add additional conditions as they saw fit. And in fact, the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment, who's in charge of tasking and monitoring that for the State Board of Health, they have never actually added a condition to the list since the year 2000. But last year, the legislature added PTSD to the list of conditions and created what is now known as a parallel pathway. We created a statutory pathway to medical marijuana that runs alongside of the constitutional one. And so then this year, we came forward and added autism to the list of conditions as well, which is really exciting. And then another bill that came forward, which I thought was great, was fiber recycling for marijuana. You harvest the flower, you go to the dispensary and you buy all of that flower, the concentrate and but you don't know what happens to the stem, stalks, and seeds from all of those flowers that are produced. And right now, correct, they're chopped up and thrown in our landfill, and they're sent to their.
Not in a good way.
No. I mean, we actually require dispensaries to chop this up and mix it with dirt, and it's a huge expense that actually adds to the cost of the product that you're buying. When what we can be doing with those products are making cool weed shit out of it, for lack of a better term. You can make fiber recycling products, paper, hempcrete. There's a number of different things that you can make with the fiber product. Textiles. Yeah, absolutely.
I've seen that YouTube video.
Absolutely. So, and it was interesting hearing you talk. You talked about what's happening at the Capitol. I've talked about THC. I haven't really talked about hemp. Hemp is an emerging product in this state, in Colorado and in other areas of the country. And hemp really stepped it up this year to really increase their level of regulation and their ability to come in and be a force to be reckoned with in the cannabis industry as well. So
that's fantastic. What a powerhouse to get get the medicine for the people, and then all these good renewable industries that could come from it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
People can you let marijuana save the world, please? With an H. Can you let it happen? Let it happen. It seems like a stoner thing to say, but a lot of things could get better if we just are smart about this one thing.
Absolutely.
It's
Absolutely. Strange. Well, that legislation is sitting on the governor's desk, along with autism and a list of a number of other bills that are out there. So we'll see what happens with the governor. Does with that?
Does it look like he's going to be supporting a lot of this pot legislation? It's
really interesting. That's a great question. We are very hopeful, both as someone who works with the patient community, but also industry, that the governor is open-minded at this point in cannabis's evolution to be able to look at and understand each policy and understand why that they're all necessary. And the fact that the legislature put them all on their desk is really meaningful to the industry when they had every opportunity to strike them down. So we think that he should take a strong look at everyone and look at them on its merits. I would say, there's a lot of conversations that are really happening in hemp and marijuana and cannabis and what that looks like. And coming from an outsider perspective, for me, it's been really interesting because you hear the term cannabis, marijuana, hemp, CBD, and you don't really know what all of these things mean. And you were talking about marijuana as a derogatory term, but when in fact that's actually what our statutes list as. Marijuana is equated with THC in our statutes, and hemp is equated with CBD in our statutes. And it's interesting for me as someone coming in from the outside, I look at it as cannabis, and it's this plant, and man has separated it into these institutions, and man has defined it into these letters and these worlds, and apparently woman is here to put it back together.
Yes. Mary Jane. Sweet Mary Jane. Well, thanks so much, Cindy. Anywhere people want to follow you, or do you encourage Twitter stalkers or anything you'd like to?
Absolutely. You can find me at Sovine Miller at Facebook. You can also find Utopia All Natural Wellness Spa and Salon, which is a social use venue that I'm looking at in Denver's I-300 platform to really take marijuana normalization to the next step and hopefully bring people into the wellness lens of what cannabis can bring to them. So.
Fantastic.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Wonderful talking to you.
Sovine, everybody. Fantastic. Now, with an editorial, a stand-up comedian coming up, but it's a news show, so an editorial. This man he's an impresario of many Denver comedy events. But the one you should be on the lookout for is Uncalled For at Comedy Works, coming up this Sunday. Everybody, give a nice welcome to Zac Maas.
Keep it going for Daniel, everybody. Give it up for Daniel. So I actually used to work in the marijuana industry. Surprise. And one of my favorite things about working in the industry was that I got to try all the new products when they came out. I got to see all the weird new stuff. And one of the weirder ones that I ever saw was a marijuana suppository. Yeah. For those of you that don't know what that is, that's buttweed. It's a different kind of pipe you're loading. You know, you're packing up a butt bowl. And when I first saw that, I was like, man, how much different would marijuana culture be if that was the main way that people did it? Like, how much of a different time getting stoned with your buddies in the garage, you know, for the first time would that be? You know, you're like, hey, do you got the stuff? Like, yeah. By the way, they call it stuff for a totally different reason. Oh boy. Are you sure that's not too much? That looks like way too much. All right. I'm not scared. Here it goes. Everybody's doing it. All right. Oh boy. Oh, you know, I feel it, but I don't know if I feel it. You know, your buddy's like, hurry up, butt pass. And you're like, all right, don't drop it. No, I just don't think we would have as many people moving to Colorado, you know. It's definitely a different Bob Marley poster hanging in college dorm rooms, you know, just... The song Jammin' has a whole new meaning after that. All right, well, that's going to do it for me, guys. I'm Zac Maas. Thank you very much. Give it up for Daniel.
Thanks so much. Keep it going for Zac Maas, everybody. And we will be right back after a short commercial break with our fantastic panel. Thanks for joining us. Thank you. Give it up for Tad Pizzazz. Hydrating our wonderful panel. And, even for me, thank you.
Aww.
And it has been dosed with 500 milligrams as I requested?
Yes, it's THC water.
Thank you. There we go. Well, we are here and time for the meat of the show, our fantastic panel. So happy they could join us, and let me introduce them to you. First, right here, To my right, we have Chris Stifler, the economist at the Colorado Fiscal Institute. Chris Stifler. Then we've got owner of Simply Pure, Wanda James. And then we had a cancellation filling in for us at the last minute, and not a fill-in guest. He's like a legit guest. Very lucky to have him. Give it up. He's the founder of The Grow Off, Jake Browne. All right. Thank you all for being here with us tonight.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us. A pleasure. Pleasure. We are talking cannabis. First of all, I would like to get out of the way, because I did see the video saying marijuana is in a questionable ground right now. Yet, Cindy was explaining that the term marijuana is tied up in all sorts of definitive legislative ways. So, what are your general panel question? What's up with the J versus the H?
If I'm talking about it for fun, then we're talking about weed. If I'm talking about it for business, then it's cannabis.
Yeah, I found myself saying cannabis more and more, but just mostly like as a white guy, I don't get an opinion about this. We should probably just stop saying marijuana.
Works for me, yeah. You weigh in, same there?
I say about everything when I'm talking to town hall meetings, but the town hall meetings are normally octogenarians, so the jokes that fly there are a little different than...
Yeah.
Then they're like, the jazz cabbage. And you're like,
Well, starting off, we have our fiscal expert. I was talking the tax money. I've been paying it. We've been making tons of it. We've been shattering records. Where is it?
Yeah, so the state collects about $241 million from recreational marijuana each year. It sounds like a lot of money until you throw it up against how big the state budget really is. State general fund's about $12 billion. So we're talking, we generate about 2% of our state tax revenue from recreational marijuana.
As small as that is, 2%, that's a ton of money that we wouldn't have had.
Yeah, we're still doing a lot of good with the $240 million. A lot of people think it goes to schools, and some of it does go to schools, but it's really not really hiring teachers as much as hiring construction workers. So we voted in 2012 when we legalized it to give $40 million to the BEST program. So basically we put new roofs and new boiler systems on a couple dozen schools every year with that $40 million. Another $30 million goes to rural schools. The rest of the money kind of goes into marijuana tax cash fund, and we do stuff like substance abuse treatment, poison control. You can now text message poison control because of marijuana dollars. So if you're
To say, like, I'm too stoned.
or your dog's like walking sideways and you're like wondering if they...
Fluffy got into my treats.
Yeah.
Yeah, my Tad Pizzazz CDB.
Tad Pizzazz!
Human animal dog. So,
I know the temptation is to say that it doesn't sound like a lot, though, but when there are like mental health professionals that have been hired for schools, and even one like school nurse that can talk to kids about what's going on with them is huge for those schools. So it doesn't sound like a lot in the grand scheme of things, but for these schools, it means a lot.
That's a fantastic point. About $20 million goes to a school bullying counselor program last year.
Yeah.
Bullying those kids that are smoking weed and they can't fight back because they're just chill as hell.
That's right. Like, share your weed. So, I mean, it was really contentious, though, about what we could spend this money on.
Basically, we voted in 2012, yes, we want to legalize marijuana. We actually had to vote 3 times because of the Taxpayer Bill of Rights. So we legalized it in 2012. The lawyers came back and said, shit, you know what? We didn't ask permission to tax it. And Tabor requires you to ask permission of voters to tax anything, to raise taxes. So we came back in 2013 and said, yes, we want to tax it. There was a problem with that election, and Tabor said you got to come back in 2015 and ask permission to keep the money we had already collected.
That's
so it actually took like 3 votes.
Yeah, okay, so you didn't ask for the money, and then, okay, you asked for it, but you didn't ask to keep the money. Gotcha. And now you asked to keep it, but you didn't ask to spend it. Then now you get, and then you gotta smile. Okay, it's very stupid. Obviously, it took us 3 bills over 5 years
3 votes, yeah.
do one thing.
You basically tax marijuana and give some of it to schools, yeah.
I mean, and we have the taxpayer bill thing, which is a Colorado, its own fun nonsense. Most states don't have that.
Yeah,
Taxpayer Bill of Rights.
Taxpayer Bill of
but
Rights. We
still,
voted in 1992. Most people don't know what Tabor is. I think Only about a third of people know what Tabor is.
Yeah, we don't need to bore the crowd with that.
But it's one of those legacies of like when we look at what Colorado used to be as a red state, and then we complain about all these like progressive people moving here for pot. I mean, that's a total leftover from these red state days when Colorado used to be a lot less progressive. I love when people move here for weed because they generally vote down some of that bullshit.
Well, and you're also looking too that it may have taken us a number of votes to get through that, but it's also taken us almost 100 years to stop putting people in jail for cannabis. So that's the big piece to this.
I wish you could drop this mic. Just like talk it over.
You could just like spring it. Well, yeah. So I mean, regulation was key. From what I heard, the industry had to be so over-regulated to get off the ground. Maybe Wanda, you could speak to how you've seen the changes as an owner. First of all, are we super overregulated?
We are ridiculously overregulated, and I think that that's something that people don't really understand what we go through in the cannabis business. I have a 1,700 square foot dispensary, and there are 39 cameras in there. And you would think 39 cameras, okay, so that's overkill, so it has to be on every indoor, outdoor, every hallway, everything, so it's all covered. So why would that be a big problem? Because now as a small business owner, 39 cameras takes up and those cameras all have to feed into the Department of Revenue, so the Department of Revenue can watch us anytime they want to.
Whoa.
And that eats up all of our bandwidth, so we can't just have like normal, Comcast. We had to put in a T5 to be able to run cameras and computers and all that kind of good stuff. So you're a small business owner, you're taxed to death, overregulation kills you, and now I've got to pay for ridiculous upgrades. And then every time I move cannabis from my grow facility to my dispensary, we've got to type it in the computer, and I've got to type in the direction in which my person is going to drive it from the grow to the dispensary, and they're not allowed to be off of that route, and we have their license plate number and their name.
Make and model of their car.
And the make and model of their car. And
What they're listening to on the radio.
I mean, it's really what would normally take maybe 5 people to run an entire dispensary. I need 20 because of all of the ins and outs and people to put this in. Because remember, for all these movings, and then when it gets to my dispensary, when it comes into the back and it's checked in there, we put it in there. And then when we take it out and we put it on the floor, we've got to go back into the computer system and type it back in there that it is now leaving the safe and going onto the floor. And then if you buy that, then we got to type it back in there again that you bought it and it's gone out of the dispensary. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Just put a GPS in each leaf.
And that's a good idea. That'd be cheaper.
It's ridiculous.
GMO weed.
GMO weed.
Has that changed at all from the beginning to now? Has it gotten a little more sensible or the
The
opposite?
beginning was great. So 2009, we opened a dispensary, and Jake would show up with bags of weed, and we'd chest it out right there in the dispensary, and we would decide to buy it or not. It was great.
Wow. Just like, this looks good,
It was
want
great.
it?
It was
Like
great.
that?
It was great.
And now it's like they're just constantly moving the goalposts on
Yeah.
owners like Wanda too, where it's 1 week your packaging needs to be this, but then legislature changed their mind, and it seems like a small thing. Oh, just put this label on, but that's hundreds of thousands of dollars for a small business owner over the course of a year, and
Yep.
compound that by 600 active dispensaries,
Yeah.
and it's a racket.
So when we got the new packaging, we had to put the little THC sign on there so that 3-year-olds wouldn't get into the THC because they would see the little THC on the package, right?
Sure.
All
So-
3-year-olds hate triangles
They
with
hate
letters on them.
they hate that, and
Takes the letters.
16-year-olds definitely don't want to see that on their weed because why would they want the real thing, right? So no, of course not. And then after we went through that and spent hundreds of thousands of dollars for new packaging, we thought that would be great. Well, then they came back with they wanted everything in the packaging to have THC on it. So all of your little candies have THC now on the back
Individual, right.
individually. So the 3-year-olds will know if they get into the package, then they get into
if they got the good stuff or
It's
not.
3-year-olds, we got to make sure they don't get that stuff.
It is cool though. Some of the edibles companies now have these lasers that they etch them in, and I like watching lasers. That's pretty cool. I feel like the crowd's with me. Watching lasers pretty cool. They don't give me goggles, but I can still see.
It's like another startup cost for a small business to
It's
buy a
crazy.
$50,000 lightsaber to engrave
Yeah.
their gun
Exactly.
candies. But
Exactly.
That's great.
So the dispensary made about $45 million last year, and I think I kept about 2 or 3 of those dollars, 2 or 3, maybe.
Not the million, right?
No, yeah, we didn't really do 45 million, but I mean, there's so much money coming in, and people think that we're just loaded up. Yes, there's a lot of money coming in, but we keep just a teeny little itty bitty bit of it, bitty. bitty bit.
It's-
We do get free weed.
They're perks.
I work for weed.
So, like, is there anything happening to remove the barrier of the cost prohibition for small businesses, people of color, and people who don't have a foot in the industry, people who've been selling weed on their own for the last 40 years and now want to do it legit?
I am the people of color in Colorado.
That's you. Welcome. We got them all here. 100% diversity.
No, I'm not cheering that she's the only one. I'm just cheering that Wanda is. I feel like everybody just turned and that's
want more.
fine.
There is a people of
We're
color.
happy
There
for
is
any
one.
representation.
There is one.
Okay.
No, it's not changing.
So that's a low level problem in the industries. I mean,
Well, no,
everyone's making their money. The fat cats are rolling, and is it time to expand to other states and that'll?
No, I mean, I think Colorado has a lot of work to do to be able to bring new people in and small businesses in and let more people participate. We have a lot of work to do, and part of that is the overregulation. If it didn't cost so much to run a 1,700 square foot dispensary, a lot more people would be able to be a part of that. If we had banking, that would be great, because on top of that, we need all those millions of dollars to open, and we can't get it from a bank. So unless you happen to know Jake, who has millions, which we loan all of our money from, then you just have no other way of, that's not true either. But I mean,
Where's my
unless,
security? I gotta get out.
I mean, there's no way of getting it unless you happen to have, wealthy parents. So it's an interesting thing. It's an interesting place that we're in right now. But Canada is getting legal, and they're giving everybody money.
Yeah, Canada's crushing us.
Canada is going to go nationwide
Nationwide.
and giving
Nationwide.
everyone money, meaning
And it's on their side.
like also yeah.
It was like a nationwide is on your side,
It's
but
on
it's their
their
side of the
side.
border, and they're making all of the money.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
when we talk to people that sponsor our
Yep.
growing competition, they are constantly in meetings up there.
Yep.
They have market caps of several like 9 figures now, because their government realized that they need to quit playing around, do
Yep.
this on a real scale, and that cannabis isn't anything to be afraid of. It's something to be regulated, taxed, and now we're going to be left behind.
And it's getting ready to go onto the Canadian stock market, not as a penny stock, not as a whatever that weird kind of thing is, but I mean like that THC symbol will be real. Real live IPO.
Yep.
Dennis Rodman must be pumped. He's
Pumped.
It's that weed coin. So
But I feel like
let it
his
drop.
negotiation status has really dropped. It's like Trump really took stole his thunder there.
Yeah.
He used to
Ew.
be our ambassador.
we warm get
And now
Dennis to warm him up, and then you get in there.
that took a weird turn.
So we don't even need to. Well, I mean Jeff Sessions. We don't. Is he anything worth saying about that?
We don't care.
Tiny no.
We don't care.
He's so irrelevant.
You know what?
Yeah.
Completely irrelevant. And everybody asks me that. And the only reason why Jeff Sessions ever comes up is so that your possible future investor can lower the valuation of your business. That is the only reason. Let's be really realistic here. Just take Colorado just for 1 second. 40,000 badged workers in Colorado. So 40,000 jobs in Colorado. I believe we're up to about 700 and some odd dispensaries. I'm not sure what the exact number is. I haven't looked for a while. 1,000 some odd grows. Is that about right? And $500 million in tax revenue. So Cory Gardner is going to come back to Colorado and say, done. All y'all are losing your jobs. We're closing all these businesses. I don't care how many multimillionaires are invested in all these businesses. We're just done. Which means Vicente Sederberg and all the law firms are going to go, oh yeah, bummer. Okay, bum. We're just going to move on. That is the most ridiculous thing to think that they are going to be able to stop this right now without massive disruption. And on top of all of those businesses, Colorado at its peak had over 200,000 patients on its registry. So we're going to tell all those babies with epilepsy and brain cancer and moms with breast cancer, done. We're not doing it. So that's just not going to happen ever.
Amen.
Ever.
Daniel, I have something for you. Daniel, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Oh yes.
Hey guys, it's me, Tad Pizzazz.
You guys remember Tad? He did a thing up front. I
Yeah,
don't know if you remember that.
I'm sorry, I was out with the people, listening to Fish and Cardi B, playing hacky sack, and we came up with some audience questions.
Oh, I'd love. Fresh question.
Tad Pizzazz.
I smell
See
him.
you in the parking lot. Yellow Hummer. Lots of product. Bye.
Fresh baked. Oh, good one right off the top. Okay, these are free for alls. Does stoner culture help or hurt cannabis's image? I fixed it. You said marijuana, I put cannabis.
It's entirely changing. I think that for a long time, the idea of being somebody who used cannabis was synonymous with somebody who broke the law. And now that is changing. And you look at any type of culture that's surrounded by breaking the law, and it's going to have certain things that drive it. Whereas now we see events with the symphony, we see events with high-ranking political officials in Colorado, and there is no ubiquitous stoner culture now. But there's also people that choose to embrace the history of cannabis, and it's important to remember your roots, but we also continue to move forward from there.
I may get this a little bit wrong, but I believe that Congressman Jared Polis did a fundraiser for the industry. It was the first one that he did here in Colorado, and I believe there was over 400 people in the room, 200 people. I might be exaggerating. I can't remember. But Jared came back with saying that this was the largest group of cannabis business owners in one room supporting somebody like this. And it was just absolutely amazing. I mean, if you would have walked into that room, you would have thought it was the annual meeting of the accountants. I mean, you wouldn't have thought, oh, yeah, these are all, pot dispensary owners.
I also love that Wanda equates a political fundraiser with pot culture. Like, that's how deep you are down the rabbit hole.
I know, it's so bad, right?
But I mean, you look
So
at
we
like,
do.
yeah, but like traditional stoner music was always like the Grateful Dead, but now it's like EDM. It's like you have Toby Keith writing his like weird weed song that no one should listen to. I'm sorry I plugged it, but it's branching out.
Yeah,
Wow. So,
we love weed.
I'm sorry,
yeah.
Mr. Stifler.
Are these
Hard pass.
in these big meetings with all the owners? Are these like, official looking people having their meeting and then like going out to the parking lot and chiefing a bowl together? Or how much is it like left behind, you find, by like
No, yeah, and I'm sorry, and I'm probably get myself in trouble, but we all have vape pens, so we just vape right there. It doesn't really matter.
Is that like a sign of like all those who say I vape?
Kind of. You know what I'm really looking for now. When I was in corporate America, everybody used to give those gifts of the Mont Blancs, the $100 pens you used to get. I can't wait for the Mont Blanc pen. So for all the executives and stuffy folks out there,
The
we
gold
have
watch now.
the Mont Blanc,
the
yeah.
Dabrick.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But I will say this. Colorado has changed the minds of the entire world on selling the Schedule I illegal drug. Within 2 years of us passing here in Colorado, we've got 9 states. I think that every state in the nation except Kansas has marijuana laws or decrim on the books. So, winning. So we've got a few more years of silliness, and then everybody will,
Right.
And you have to strike a balance, because out in
Yep.
California right now, tax rates are so high that the
Yep.
black market continues
Still
to
cheaper.
thrive. If it's still cheaper to get it outside of
Yep.
a legal market, people will.
Yep.
People don't inherently want to break the law,
Nope.
but if they can continue to get it at a dramatically cheaper rate, I'm not going to pay what I used to pay in Iowa. Sorry.
Yeah. Totally.
And especially if people have the right to grow at home, which a lot of people do, you have to maintain this balance. Otherwise, you give opportunities for the black market, for the cartels, all of these organizations or people that should be having a harder time under regulation. So, I mean, that's the tax dance.
And it's interesting that you brought up the mayor of Denver. The mayor of Denver. So it's really
You can look right into the camera. No.
the mayor of Denver.
Talking to you, Mayor.
We're talking to you. What up, Hancock? I mean, it's really, he's not been a fan of the industry, hasn't understood the industry. To the best of my knowledge, I don't know for absolute positively sure, but for all of the owners that I've spoken to in Colorado, he has yet to step a foot inside of a dispensary. And to me, I liken it that would we have a mayor of Los Angeles that hated the movies? I mean, because that's what we have here. And I'm not saying that this is all about cannabis, but God damn it. I mean, we're doing it here, and babies aren't high, people aren't dying. It's been great. And this guy just doesn't seem to get it. So I'm really looking forward to the next election to see if we can actually find a mayor in Colorado or a mayor in Denver that actually appreciates what we do, what we have done, and how proud we are of what we are doing. So, Mayor Hancock.
Y'all better vote. All right. Okay. Well, we have to wrap up soon, so I'd love to go down one by one and give you all a chance to talk about any of your organizations, where we can follow and find you, all that kind of stuff. If you'd like to start out, Chris.
Yeah, I'm Chris from the Colorado Fiscal Institute. We're a small nonprofit that does some advocacy and education around boring fiscal tax policy stuff.
All right. You need help sleeping later? Check
Find
his
him on
website out.
Snapchat.
I'm Wanda James. We own Simply Pure Dispensary, and we also own the Cannabis Global Initiative, which helps get things moving faster and consulting. And we are at the corner of Tejon and 32nd, and it really is an amazing dispensary, and it's got a lot of really good vibes in there. And we have medicated sex lube for ladies, so come on down.
Yeah. I was actually going to ask like what your favorite product was, but you cut me off.
For the ladies. Ladies. And the guys.
Yeah, I was about to say, I have no medicated sex lube for anyone now. Put me on the spot. I'm Jake Browne. I run a cannabis growing competition called The Grow Off, where everyone starts with the same genetics and everything's judged by science.
Well, all right. Give it up for our panel, everybody. They were not paid for this. They took their sweet time and talents and donated it to us, and we really appreciate that. Also, we keep that amazing applause going for the staff and crew who made this happen here, all our camera people, control room back there, Denver Open Media, this beautiful studio that all of you can learn and use and join, the Pizzazz family over here.
If you're not ready for that sex lube, I will be out in the parking lot spraying hair, free of charge. It goes right to the bloodstream.
It really works.
Come talk to my son Brent. Thank
Oh, a
you.
little
really
bit.
works.
That's good. Now, give it up for yourselves. We do this every month. Have a great night, and we will see you soon. Thanks so much.